Welcome to Stories from the Pitch, a podcast dedicated to creating a living oral history about street performing and some of the crazy characters who populate this world. I'm Magic Brian, your host for this growing collection of interviews. This is our first in a series of Skype interviews where we'll be posting the video of our interview on our YouTube page. In this episode, done in late March of this year, Al Millar connected with the multi-talented Shep Huntly. Shep talks about getting his start by taking an acting course and realizing that circus arts was the path for him. He talks about meeting Lucky Rich, who became his mentor and inspiration, bringing Shep with him to Europe for the first time. Shep also tells Al about doing a double act with Anthony Livingspace, how he created the Happy Sideshow at Chayne and Frodo, and doing a silent stage show, The Dark Party. Amongst all of this, Shep squeezed in a ton of great stories from his 30-year career as a performer. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did.
What's the day today? It's March 25th in Boston. What time?
Yes.
It's the next day there.
No, it's still 25th here.
Oh, still the 25th? Oh, yeah, that's right.
11 o'clock at night, yeah.
And where are you, mate?
So we're on the same day. I'm at Byron Bay.
Nice one.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's so weird to be going into social isolation, but still be able to go to the most beautiful beaches in the world.
I know, right? I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's insane. I went to a waterfall in a rainforest, just with no one else.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to be in lockdown. It's sort of weird and beautiful. Yes, strange.
It's back to nature, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm putting my gardens in, like garden beds, onions, carrots, potatoes, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Right. Who knows how long this is going to last,
No, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we need more podcasts. So thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Well, you probably got tons of great stories, and you were definitely one of my early inspirations, and helped me out in the beginning. So this is awesome. Have you had like a lot of cancellations, or are you?
Everything, Al. Fucking everything. Like, yeah, there's nothing. Like, I was so looking forward to going to Glastonbury.
Yeah, right. That's huge.
Everything up till July is gone, and I only booked 6 months in advance, so I got nothing. Just nothing.
Yeah. How did street theatre start for Shep Huntly? Like, did you go to circus school or learn something in high school, or how did it happen?
Well, I know the date of the start of it because I was trying to think of dates earlier, going, fuck, it's all just so confusing. But in 1987, I went to a acting course. I wanted to be an actor, and in the acting course, first year acting course, a guy came along and he taught us all to juggle and he taught us all to walk on stilts. And from sort of like that day, I just went, I don't want to be an actor anymore. I want to be a juggler and a circus guy, and I just want to be into all that. And so it was only a few months after that I just dropped out of this university and moved in with the guy who was the juggling teacher, and then just practiced every day, just doing heaps of passing patterns, learnt to ride a unicycle, learnt to juggle. It was way before the internet. But we bought a Diablo from a mail order thing, right. and it came from Dubai in New York to Ballarat. Came in a box. We got it out of the box. We didn't even know how to use it. Just there was one book. It was called The Complete Juggler, and we had that. We had to learn out of that how to use the Diablo. Yeah. And then the only trick we could do was sort of throwing it over the house. We used to throw it from one side of the house to the other side of the house. Yeah. And he was in a group, sort of musicians group that did some juggling in their shows. And then me and him and another guy started a 3-person juggling circus thing. We used to do shows at schools and stuff. And then we get shows at sort of outdoor festivals. So we'd be doing shows on the street, but getting a fee for it. And then, and that was for a couple of years. And then in 1990, Melbourne City Council ran a Buskers festival.
Really?
And yeah, and it was a Buskers sort of championship thing. It was a big deal at the time. And so we went down there. The three of us went down there, and Lucky Rich was there. There was a guy called Jeff Bradley there from somewhere from. He was a great Diablo guy.
Yeah.
Petra Massey, she actually won it. You know, she's in Spy Monkey now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went down.
What did your show look like at that point?
The show was set up as a race. How many tricks can we do in 30 minutes? And we'd set all the props out and start off with the juggling balls and move on to the clubs and then move on to I don't know, we used to skip a burning rope on the unicycle, do a few little acro tricks, finish off in a sort of like a 3-person pyramid all blowing fire at the same time.
Right.
So it used to be as many tricks as we could do in 30 minutes. And then we're just watching all the other acts going, they're going really slow. They're taking some real time about this. They're only doing like 1 or 2 things in the whole 40-minute slot. Like, geez.
Oh, mate. Street show structure.
Yeah. And then a little bit after that, a few months after that, the Port Fairy Folk Festival was on. And I was there with the other 2 guys. We were doing shows there, just busking shows. It was sort of before everybody had seen street shows, so you didn't have to be that good to get big crowds.
Mm-hmm.
And we were making really good coin. And then Lucky Rich was there, and he said to me, "Come with me, man. Come with me. Come." And he took me away, sort of out of the centre pitch area and down the street a little bit. And he went, "Just sit there." And then he goes, "This one's for you." And then he just said, "You 3 guys," there's just 3 young guys walking past. He goes, "You 3 guys, you're going to be the front row of my show. You need to stand right there." And they just stopped and stood there.
Yeah.
And then he built a massive show around those 3 guys, absolutely massive. And then at the end, he goes, "That's how you do it. That one's for you." And then he kept all the money, but he was actually just showing me. He was just showing me how to do the show, you know, how to really structure it properly. And so after that, I just had the bug. And there was a point where we were in a 3-man troupe. One of them left so that he could concentrate on rock and roll. Mm-hmm. And then I was in a double act for another year or 2. And there was one point where in the double act, my mate, he just didn't make it. Either the car broke down or something happened and he couldn't get to the gig. So I had to do the gig by myself. And I remember it clearly. It's on a big, wide street in Ballarat. And I just nailed it. You know, I just nailed it. Like at one point I went into the suitcase to get the next props out. My internal monologue went, "Oh, where's Terry? Where's Terry now? Fuck, he's not here. They're all here for me. This is awesome." And at the end, counting the wedge and not having to split it up.
Yeah.
From then on, I was like,
no turning
back. I can do this. And I was a bit scared to do it, my solo show in Ballarat or even Melbourne. So I used to drive up to Sydney.
Really?
Yeah. And I sort of cut my teeth at Circular Quay there much more than cutting my teeth at the Melbourne pitches. And so by the time I got to those Melbourne pitches, I felt like I had a decent show.
Who was working in Sydney when you started working there?
I distinctly remember Herbie Treehead. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, JP was there for sure. Brett was there. Damien was there. Gareth from the Pitt family.
Oh, he was
like
cool.
He was like a 14-year-old kid jumping through a ring of fire. And then I used to go back to Sydney quite regularly after that. I remember meeting Adam.
Solo show. What did that look like? Was it still the race kind of thing or what?
Nah. I just thought, well, I was in Melbourne. I was going, right, well, Lucky does the tall unicycle and Hotch does the flying.
Mm-hmm.
Livingspace does all that weird mime stuff. What's a prop that people aren't using? And I just went, oh, bed of nails. No one's using that.
All right.
So I made myself one of those. And my first solo shows were pretty much this. The structure of the show stayed the same forever, really.
Yeah.
Build a crowd, put a kid on the shoulders, get a woman out. You know, isn't it funny? It takes bloody 20 seconds to say it, but 50 minutes to do it. Build a crowd, get a kid out, put the kid on the shoulders, get a woman out, do all the stuff, and then get her to drop the bowling ball on my stomach.
Right.
While I was on the thing. And if you choose, at the start, it was with roofing tiles. I used to do roofing tiles.
Yeah, right.
But the first time, but the first time I went to Amsterdam, there was no roofing tiles there, and suddenly I had to go, oh my God, how do I solve this? And that's when cheap dinner plates from op shops, that just became my thing. I became a plate.
How many do you buy at a time?
Oh, it depends, like 10, 15, 20, depends, as many as I could carry, really. To a show. So if there's a lot of op shops around, then you're okay. You can just, as many as you want, doesn't matter. But I became a real expert in how plates smash.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stoneware plates, they just go thunk, and it's not really much of a finale.
Right.
But there's these other ones, they shatter like glass and it bounces up off your chest and it's a big explosion. And
beauty.
Yeah. Acrobats never used to like following me because it was really hard to get all those tiny little slivers.
And just for people that haven't seen it, it's you laying on the bed of nails, someone climbs up a ladder and drops a bowling ball on your stomach where the plates are. And it was a killer. It was a killer finale, and it was on the ground.
Yeah. I never realised at the start how much I was sabotaging my earning potential by actually lying down. But what I got really good at was bobbing down a lot through the show and getting the first 2 rows to sit down, then the next 2 rows to sit down, and then the next couple of rows, and then a couple of people. And at the very end, you're going to have, on a good show, a lot of rows sitting down, and then a whole lot of people just sort of hunched so the people behind them could see as well.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of turn it into a natural amphitheatre on a good show. Yeah. But I was always looking for steps that have got, for pictures that have got good steps.
Yeah. Where'd you find some good ones?
Burke Street was one of the best. Burke Street Post Office, for me, was really great. Down in St Kilda in Melbourne too, there's a grassy bank that used to be really good as well.
What took you out of Australia? Like, how long did it take before you went, I got to go overseas?
Yeah, right. Well, it was Lucky Rich. Lucky Rich was my mentor and inspiration for quite a few years, And in Burke Street one time, I remember him saying to me, Shep, you've really got it now. What you need to do is just cut out a few more of those generic lines, make it more yours, and you'll be really good at this. And then he went overseas, and I just worked all winter in Melbourne. So just that makes you sort of tough and pitch ready, like when you work in Melbourne winter. And I was doing St Kilda one day. And then Lucky was there at the end when I was collecting all the money. Lucky was there. And he goes, Shep, I watched that from the back. You've got it now, man. Next time I go to London, I'm taking you with me. And so a few months after that, after the season, we got on a plane together and we went to Amsterdam and London and stuff. And he sort of showed me a few pictures. And he said to me, he goes, we were flying over London. You could actually see some of the landmarks. We were coming into land, and he goes, that's my town. I go, really? And he goes, yeah. And I sort of said to him, I'm so nervous. Like, I'm so nervous about this. And he goes, Shep, don't worry. This is how it works. He goes, there's me. And he put his hand up nice and high. And he goes, there's me. Then there's a big gap. Then there's a lot of other people. Then there's another big gap, and there's everybody else. And then he goes, and you will fit in that first lot of people.
Nice.
You know, like saying you're not shit. You're going to be okay. You know, yeah.
So it's kind of like how I felt about going to London years ago. I think I was talking to JP about it. I'm like, it'd be fun to go and work Covent Garden, but Covent Garden's got like this reputation about being this amazing pitch, and he's like, you're better than anyone there. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you'll kill it.
It's amazing because some of them were really good. Like there was some great acts. And there was acts like Brian Reed.
Oh my God, totally.
Just amazing, you know, completely left of center, weird acts that would do really well. He used to say, what did he used to say? He used to go, if I was ever attacked by a music stand, this is what I'd do. And then he'd have a music stand there, and then he'd pick up a pair of nunchuckers and beat the shit out of the music stand with nunchuckers. I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. So when I got there, I realised, oh my God, it's not even a garden. It's just a bloody square. Right. And it wasn't that hard to do decent shows. And this thing, everyone in London was a bit intimidated by Lucky. And at the draw, no one would choose the show after him. Right. Maybe it'd almost be like he's going to take all the money off the pitch or something. So it wouldn't really matter where I came out in the draw. There'd always be a show straight after Lucky.
Killer.
So I used to just
timing.
Yeah, I know. I used to take that just thinking he's not taking all the money. He's just putting a great vibe onto the street, and you can walk on and just sort of use that vibe. Yeah. So they always used to be a bit scared of him. They'd leave me a little slot that I could just take, which was great.
Awesome. You once told me a story about the Punch and Judy when Richie was on.
They used to chant. They used to go, nobody does it like Richie. So you got like 300 or 400 drunk people up on the balcony all chanting that when you're trying to start your show. I can't remember what I told you about it, but it was pretty much intimidating at times. Yeah. But we went to Amsterdam first. So the first pictures that I worked outside Australia were The Lights Are Playing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I loved it because it just had mad people. And there was a nude guy on rollerblades that just used to slide through your show and slide out again. And you just have to, you can't just hold the form of your show. You just got to go with what's going on. Like, it was pretty mental, and it was a pretty steep learning curve. But it also let me know what an amazing world it was. Like, I met people like Love 22. You know, he used to look like Colonel Sanders, and he used to hand out these $22 bills and then tell you all this sort of Illuminati stuff about everything adds up to 22. Yeah. You know, and Cellini and Tom Picard and all those old table magic guys, and just see people work in the terraces and just go, oh wow, like this is a big tradition and a big world that I've entered here. And it really opened my eyes. And I feel really lucky just to be part of all that for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was probably early 90s, right?
I think 95 or 96 by the time I got there. But what I do know for certain is that's where I met the Space Cowboy.
Yeah, in Amsterdam.
Yeah, we never met in Australia. We were always just like, we knew of each other because we were on the same circuits, but we never actually met each other until we were in Amsterdam. And then it's like, oh, you're the Space Cowboy, you're Shep Huntly. And we suddenly just hit it off, became great mates. Yeah. And I remember going, sometimes we used to stay in his van just because it was easier than, and what we used to do, just park the van on the pitch. And every day we'd get a fine. It's like, I don't know, 30 guilders or something like that. Yeah. And it was just way cheaper than getting a hostel or a hotel or a room or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just pay the traffic fine.
Sleep there.
Yeah, wake up, take the fine off the window, go around the place and pay it, and then just do shows, sit in the cafes, and then pay the fine again the next day.
That's great.
Yeah, it was a good little loophole.
And did you explore Amsterdam for pictures, or did you just stay on the Leidseplein?
You couldn't work Dam Square at that point for some reason.
All right.
But you used to have to line up. Bert was there, the guy who used to balance the two bikes.
Balance the bikes, yeah. Bike Bert.
Yeah, Bike Bert. And Frank, Marty, all those old school geezers were there.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
And then you went to London.
Yeah, and then worked that whole summer. And then everyone was talking about Edinburgh. I mean, that's where I met Pep. I met Pep in Covent Garden, but everyone was talking about Edinburgh. And that first year I went there, it was probably 95 or 96. Yeah, it was really special. Like Dave McSavage was there, Rumpel was there, all these people. I don't know what year.
Everyone, doesn't it?
Hey?
It just attracts everyone.
Yeah. There was this, when I was thinking of things to tell you, I was going, oh my God. So there was this year in Edinburgh, it was part of the free-for-all, I think, before the Fringe took over. So we used to have the High Street. We'd sit at the Royal Mile, that pub in the middle there, and just like a street mafia, we just dominate these pitches between about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 of us. Yeah. So everyone would get 3 shows a day, and we just sort of sit at the pub and just go, oh, he's finishing up there, you go up there, do another one, you go down there, just sort of run this thing. And Dave McSavage was down in front of this little shop. The lady was always really narky, and he had a great show going on. And then suddenly there's this screaming. He's going, help, help, help. And it turns out the police have come in and got him, and they're trying to arrest him. And I run down there. A few of us run down there, and he's going, help, they're trying to arrest me because I said penis. And he's going, penis, I've just said penis. Oops, I've said it again, penis. And it turns out that he said to the crowd, when they didn't clap at a gag or something, he goes, well, what do you want me to do? Set my penis on fire? And some old lady had taken complete offence to it, and she'd gone and got the police, and the cops were trying to drag him out of the scenario, and he wasn't happy about it, and he had his mic on, and he's screaming penis into the microphone, and they took him away, and we go to the police station, and they wouldn't let him out for ages, and we were all there waiting, and then we had to leave. Then eventually they let him out, and the next day he had to go to court. And so we all went to court. I remember me, Shane, AJ, probably a few others I can't remember now. And we all went, full street riffraff, all just dressed up with big glasses and big shoes and 90s style guys. And we went to the courthouse. We were like, well, if our mate's going down, we're going to try and be there supporting. And so everybody's piled into the courthouse, and we had the front couple of rows. But they don't just hear one case. They hear quite a few cases in a day.
Right.
So we had to sit there through, like, somebody's parking fine and somebody else's bloody, I don't know, domestic violence thing or whatever. And then they go, and now it's time for the court versus David McSavage for public indecency. And then the guy goes, the judge goes, and this case has been dismissed without charge, and folded up and put a stamp on it. And and we were free to go. And it really felt like we somehow influenced the judge, like he didn't want it to come to them having the police and Dave McSavage having to tell their stories to him, because it was going to get out of hand, because we were going to go or whatever. Just
Yeah.
and so when that happened, his dad is some sort of parliament person
In Ireland.
in Ireland. So the press had got wind of it.
Right.
So outside the court, there was these all these paparazzi press photographers and stuff. And so we got Dave McSavage and put him up on our shoulders, took him out of the court. And so there's this photo. It was on page 2 of the Times paper in London.
Awesome.
You know, MP's son gets off, public indecency. And then there's a whole heap of street performers with their arms up, coming out of the courtroom like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a beautiful memory. And I haven't remembered it for years, except for when I thought, I'm talking to Al. What sort of shit can I remember to tell him?
Great story.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so that was one of them. Yeah.
Where did we meet? Did I meet you in Edinburgh? Was it in Australia? Do you remember?
I'm pretty sure it was in Sydney.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, you weren't doing the pole, but you were doing juggling shows.
Yeah. Well, the first year I went to Edinburgh was '98, and I remember you kind of showing me the pictures and telling me how things went. Here's a pitch, there's a pitch. You line up here, and then you line up there, and it was pretty cool. Had a lot.
It was still before the Fringe took over, wasn't it? '98. Yeah. So that was the glory days.
Yeah, there was just like a bunch of pitches up the high street. You could set up here, set up there, and have those big crowd wars. Those were fun.
Yeah, weren't they? Yeah. Yeah, we have crowds singing to each other and stuff. And sometimes, I even remember, I don't know who it was, they would swap crowds.
Right.
Did you ever do that? Halfway through the show, you just put your shit in your case and swap with your mate. Just finish the other person's show or finish. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah, it was a lot of anything goes back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't so serious. And it felt like, the wave hadn't quite broken. Now everything has to be so tight and so slick, and a lot of people, queuing shit on their watches just so the music's perfect and all that. It felt like back then, you could just have a bit more fun.
It was a bit loose, definitely.
Yeah. I saw a photo the other day of 1997 Tasmanian Circus Festival, and it brought back to me that me and Livingspace used to do double acts together.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Well, all over. Like, we did them in Edinburgh, we did them in London, we did them in Australia, we did them in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And it was at a point in his career when he was just a bit jaded with doing the same old shit all the time. How he gets sometimes. Yeah. And so I don't know how it started, but we're just like, well, Tony still needs to make money, and we really like hanging out together, so let's just do a show together. And he would set up his, all his wires, so he'd have amplifier and then sample pads like with a whole lot of gag noises in them, and a drum pad so he could play little like rolls and riffs and stuff. And I'd basically do my show, but then find as much improv stuff as I could, and Tony would just add beats and accents and funny little music stings and stuff to it the whole time.
Is that right on?
We did that for a couple of summers, I reckon, just mucking around like.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a mad bastard. I first saw him in Brisbane, actually.
Yeah.
Early in my career, and I was just like, how is it that this guy does this? Like, like during his hat pitch, he would play this like sad piano music, and he'd get all the children out of the audience to like surround him.
Yeah, wasn't that brilliant? Yeah, that was all completely brilliant. Such a genius. Yeah, such a genius. I got his stuff out of bins, because Tony would go, "Oh, that's it. I've had enough. I'm stopping." And just chuck all his whole suitcase in a bin and walk away.
Wow.
And I would then go get the stuff out of the bin and sort of stash it in my car or van or house or whatever, just knowing that there'd be a time when Tony would go, geez, I wouldn't mind doing a show. Has anyone got any stuff I can borrow? I'd go, Tone, I've got your whole kit under my bed. You know? Yeah.
That's
I
cool.
remember, I'll tell you a story. Tony and I used to live together in a share house in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the 90s, late 90s. And it was a 2-story. Yeah, mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
It was a 2-story house. And so the bathroom was upstairs and the lounge room was downstairs and the kitchen was downstairs and there's a bedroom downstairs. And Tony's practicing drums. He had a drum kit downstairs and he's practicing drums. It's loud, really loud. And I was in the kitchen and then I could see, it's raining in the lounge room. Like, it's actually seriously raining in the lounge room.
Oh, no.
And so I went up the stairs and I found the bathroom and I saw, the bath's on. All the taps are both on hardcore. It's fully overflowing and it's going down. It's going through the roof into the lounge room.
Oh, boy.
So I didn't turn the taps off. I just went back there. I went back downstairs to Tony, pushed the door open to the drum room, and I just yelled out, Tony! And he stopped playing and go, Tony, your bath's ready. And his whole face just went, oh my fucking God. And he goes, how ready? And I go, well, some of it's in the lounge room. And he's like, fuck. Bolted up the stairs and turned the thing off. And yeah.
I think I visited that house one day. Mitch and I drove to Melbourne because of the St Kilda Festival. And
right.
we rolled up, I think Shane had told us where he was staying at that place. And we rolled up and I remember Tony saying, why don't you guys stay in Sydney and go to your own shitty festival?
yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah.
But, there was one time in Sydney. Yeah, you go.
That?
I was going to say there was a time in Sydney I felt where people someone had written locals only on the back of the pitch. Do you remember that?
At Circular Quay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. That was a bit fun, a bit intimidating.
I mean, that's crazy because, like, my first year at Circular Quay, it was like an international mecca.
Wasn't it?
Trevor Rooney was there and Bike was there and Sparky Mark and just a bunch of internationals, you know what I mean? I was just thinking, I also remember like a turning point. It might have been, it might not have been, but you and me are in Edinburgh, right? And we heard about the Kamikaze Freak Show.
Oh yeah.
And we went to it, and he would pierce himself like 200 times before he went on stage, go on stage with needles everywhere, and I remember just walking up the street with you after the show, and you said we're a bunch of lightweights.
Yeah, because that guy was truly hardcore, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since after that, like you guys all started doing your hardcore sideshow stuff, and I thought back, I was like, maybe that's why,
Yeah, well, both
the spark moment.
Yeah, both Frodo and Chayne did seasons with the Kamikazes.
Mm-hmm.
But that first season that you're talking about, Amy Misbehave was in it.
Yeah.
That's how she got her start in the game. Yeah, and I just remember. I saw that show quite a few times. Maybe was Nick Nicholas with us when we saw it?
Yeah, and a guy called Rolex. He
was a great magician, Rolex.
Yeah.
He was a great magician. But I remember after that show, Nick Nicholas, because we must have got him for free. Nick stood up, pulled out his wedge, and just walked up to the front and just started going, When I like things, I pay. And then peeling off 20s to all the people in the show.
Yeah.
Like he must have spent 100 quid on those people just going, yep, when I see something I like, I pay for it. Just peeling off 20s. It was inspirational.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that show and the Jim Rose show, they both inspired me and Chayne and Frodo to go, well, we can do all that stuff, but we don't have to be so macho and hardcore about it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to be so dark and, fucking gross and all that. So that's why we came up with the Happy Sideshow. So we got all those stunts presented in an uplifting, awesome, inspirational sort of way.
Yeah.
And that's why that show had such a good life and was pretty successful, because it just captured some magic,
What was the first year in that show? Like 99 to...
Yeah, and we did a show in the basement, in some basement in Edinburgh. Oh God, we didn't get paid. We did 30 shows. They ripped us off completely.
Right.
At the end, we went to their offices. Where's the money? They go, we haven't got any money. So on the way out, we grabbed a whole heap of gazebos. Took them to Glastonbury. I had those gazebos for years, actually. The only thing we could steal was gazebos, so that's what we had to take. Yeah, we didn't get paid. Wow. But I remember me and Chayne were cruising around in Shayne's van. We were going just all these European pitches. And we ended up in Copenhagen. And there's a big pitch down the bottom, and we did some shows there. And then we walked up the top through this little walking street to another pitch. Mm-hmm. I think Sean was there, actually, bike boy.
Yeah, he used to go there. He took me there.
Yeah, right. And this quirky guy with a little sort of brown flat cap and a walking stick and a little suitcase came wandering up. We must have been just sitting around drinking and smoking and stuff on the side of the street. And that was Frodo. And Frodo was working as a table magician in doorways, doing 10, 20 people at a time sort of thing. Yeah. And me and Shayne had nowhere to stay. So he goes, oh, well, you might as well just stay at my house. So we went and stayed at his place, and every day we'd come in and work the pitches on the streets of Copenhagen. Then at night we'd go back to his place and hang out. And then when it was time to leave, maybe a week or so later, Frodo just goes, I want to come with you. Yeah. So he came with us, and we just basically had to go straight from Copenhagen to Edinburgh. And when we got to Edinburgh, it just opened his mind. He said to us, oh, I've never seen shows of this scale. I've never seen this many performers. Oh my God, so this is what's possible.
I remember Frodo from that year. That was 98.
Yeah, right.
I took a picture of him. I've got a picture of him wearing that little suit and hat and that sitting on a suitcase.
Yeah. And so that was his, just sort of opened his mind to what's possible. And, well, up until last week, he was the star of a Vegas show. Now he's just, well, all those shows in Vegas are cancelled at the moment.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But he's had a great run in Vegas.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was cool, meeting him and just going, oh, look what you can do with it, man. And his tennis racket show was the best tennis racket show ever. He's inspired a generation of, apart from you, of course, but yeah, he did inspire a generation of them, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so what about Lil? How did she fit in?
Me and Lil have been friends for a long time, and one summer, I don't know. Anyway, she rang me up and she goes, Shep, I just lost my job and I've just lost the house I've been living in and I don't know what to do. And I went, well, you can come to Glastonbury with me. It's a bloody big life-changing event. Like, Glastonbury is so awesome. You should come. Mm-hmm. So she goes, okay, I'll do that. And she bought the ticket. She came to Glastonbury, and then her and Frodo met each other and fell instantly in love. Yeah. And that was that. So then we had a nice little gang for quite a few years. Yeah, the four of us. Yeah.
And where did the Happy Sideshow take you?
Far out. Almost more countries than being a street performer took me.
Wow.
Like, I don't know. It gave a little bit of, when you're on the street, you're sort of a bit more of a rebel and a renegade, and you try and make it happen. You never ask permission. You just do your thing. If you get away with it, it's great. That sort of vibe. But when you're working with a team of other people, there's a bit more I don't know, you get jobs in theatres and stuff, and so
Mm-hmm.
you get put up at nice hotels and you get reviews in papers and stuff, and I don't know, it felt like my parents were proud of me when I was in the Happy Sideshow.
Yeah, right. Nice.
You know? Yeah, like we did 4 separate seasons in the Sydney Opera House, and my
You
folks,
ran Opera House. I remember that.
yeah, they were so proud of me when I was doing that, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it was good for a lot of reasons. Um, I don't know, one summer we did a tour that went from Spain to Sweden, and I don't know how many countries we did on the way, and then heaps of Asian stuff as well. It's hard to know. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard.
It was a
Yeah,
few years, hey? Like,
yeah.
and why did it come to an end?
It's pretty much 5 years, and I suppose everyone would have different opinions of there's always 4 or 5 versions of the truth.
Well,
So
it's
it's
like a
hard for
band,
me.
you know?
Yeah, it's hard for me to know exactly because my memory, yeah, and all that. But I think what I put it down to is being overworked. I
Mm-hmm.
think our management team didn't give us enough time to recover.
Yeah.
They were young. The management team were young. We were making them a lot of money, and they killed the golden goose just by working us too hard.
Right.
That's what I reckon happened. Because in the end, there was a time at the end where we just weren't friends. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're all really close again now. But at the end of that, you just got to spend some time apart because you're cutting costs and spending shitloads of time in vans and driving around everywhere and not. So yeah, they just worked us too hard. When you're working for yourself, you can take as much time off as you want. When you're
Yeah.
working for someone else and they've booked the thing and the posters are printed and the bloody it's all that, you just got to do it.
You got to do it. Yeah, responsibility. The
Yeah,
street. There's no responsibility on the street. If you don't want to go to the pitch that day, you don't go. You
that's
need a
right.
day off. You need a
Yeah,
week off. You know?
yeah. I've been trying to learn to surf, Al,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah. Well, what
Well,
what
you're in a
it's
good spot for it.
yeah, because I've never surfed, right? And so I've got this surfboard in the shed there, and what it reminded me of is when you're getting back into doing shows and you haven't done shows for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and you go on the first day, you pack all your stuff in the car and you go to the pitch, and then you go, oh, I'll leave the stuff in the car and I'll just have a look at the
Let's have a
pitch,
look.
just have a bit of a look, and you have a look, and then you decide it's no good and you go home, and then the next day you drive in again, you get your stuff and you actually get it out of the car and you take it to the pitch, and you have a look and you go, oh, yeah, it's just not, not today. And then you take your stuff back and put it in. And then on the third day, you drive there, you take your stuff, you get it to the pitch, and you actually do it. And
Yeah.
that's what the last 3 days have been for me.
Right.
First day, I went and had a look, didn't do anything. Second day, had a look, took the board out of the car, sat on the beach for a while. And then today, went there, took the board out, and actually went out into the waves for a little while.
Have you done
So,
any other kind of board sport?
no,
Mm.
I haven't. And I'm 51. But don't worry, I'll get there.
Dude, I mean, if you're gonna do something like that, that's awesome. It's really good for fitness and like you can't unless you're surfing big waves with a lot of rocks, you're not gonna get hurt as much as you would if you were learning to say skateboard or you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah, the water's soft. And
Yeah.
at the pass, it's like the perfect learner's beach. The
Hmm.
waves they just go parallel to the shore. They just cruise along that. You don't have to fight any waves to get back out. You can just walk
Yeah.
along the shore and start again.
Beauty.
So it's pretty perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I surfed. I started when I was probably 13 and surfed all the way up till I left Australia, pretty much.
Mm.
Yeah.
But you'd be a snowboarder now, wouldn't you?
I do sometimes. Yeah, it's been a couple of years though. But one of my mates, who lives about an hour away, he called me up in September and was like, "Hey, do you want to go for a surf?" And I was like, "Yeah, you found a beach?" Like, so there's a
Yeah.
beach up in New Hampshire. I guess there's a bunch of them where people surf, but I just never really was interested because, you know what? The Atlantic Ocean is freezing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like we found this place that rented boards and like steamer wetsuits and we went surfing and like what you're saying like I was like, oh, this is the first day I went up there. I was a bit scared. I was like, oh no, the waves were big and crashing and whatever. I was like, I've surfed bigger waves than this. Like it's fine. I'll go out. And it was tough to even get out. And then like the next day, I went back up and just got up, surfed. I was like, so easy.
Yeah. Still do it. It's like riding a bike. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm definitely gonna do that more because it's just such a nice like relaxing thing to do, even though it's like a little bit strenuous and it's a workout. It's so chill when you're out there just waiting for a wave.
Yeah. I've got to do more of it. Just getting the hang of it.
Reminds me of actually sitting on a pitch and waiting for a show.
Yeah.
You're waiting for that. So you're looking around. You're waiting to see like, it's picking up. Are people walking fast? They're walking slow. It's just like waiting for that hump to come in the surf.
Hey, I'll tell you something else about the first time I went to Edinburgh. I was leaving a venue late at night, and I was a bit paranoid. You know, I'm in a new place. I don't know quite exactly where I'm going. Maybe anyway. So I'm a bit paranoid, and I'm walking, and it's misty, and it's dark, and it's Edinburgh, and it's quiet, and then I can hear this noise. It's going, and I'm going, oh my God, what is that? It's getting closer. And it was like scary. And I'm walking towards a corner, and the noise is getting louder and louder and louder. And then at the corner, there's Rumpel in his spring shoes. And that was the noise. And he goes, oh, crikey, Shep, I'm a little bit lost. Do you know where we are?
Oh, man, what a character.
Yeah.
You know where Rumpel is these days? I heard he lives in the US.
No, I think he's in Melbourne.
Oh, okay.
I wrote to him a little while ago. I don't think he's overly well, but he's in Melbourne doing his thing. Yeah.
So, like the Happy Sideshow, were you still doing street shows, or you started again after that, or how did that work out?
No, we did. We did a lot of street shows, all three of us, because that's what we'd use to finance. I don't know, building bigger props or getting bigger posters or whatever we had to do next. So it was hard because, especially in Edinburgh, we'd be on late at night. I don't know, because it's a freak show. They do it at 11 or 11:45 or something like that. Yeah. And then after that, you know, you've got a few hundred people in the theatre and you're hyped up, and so you've got to get all that energy out. And you get all that energy out, and then it's the draw. So I was always like, right, if I can just get an early show, do that, then I can go home and sleep through the day, get up at night time. So, yeah, all three of us, me, Chayne and Frodo, used to do solo shows and the Happy Sideshow every Edinburgh. I don't know, maybe for 4 or 5 Edinburghs in a row.
Wow. This must have been tiring for sure, every day.
So tiring. But you know what it's like when you're doing a run. You just got to grind the shows out, because at the end of it, the wedge is just every day adds up, you know, and then you can relax. And
you got all three of you like advertising the Happy Sideshow.
That used to work so well. Because, if you like this, you'll love what we do in the indoor show. It's like you never had to hand out a flyer that people didn't want. They'd actually mob you for flyers.
Yeah.
So it just worked. It worked really well for us.
And was that possible in other cities that you went to do street shows and advertise?
In Adelaide a bit.
Yeah.
But it's a good question. But Edinburgh was the real jewel in the crown for that. Other festivals, the street was just not as good in a lot of places.
How to pay.
It just wasn't as awesome as Edinburgh. And then, in answer to that, nah, man, it wasn't.
No, really?
No, not really, no. not at
But
all.
you guys were doing like comedy festivals and big events all over the world, right?
Yeah, but they don't really have a street component.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those places don't have a street component, and a lot of them, when you're not on, see, sometimes we just would get wages. They just go, all right, do this thing, and we'll give you this much money at the end of it. You don't need to go out and hand out flyers.
Yeah.
You're already set.
Yeah.
It's a luxury. It's really good. It's fantastic.
And once that was done and dusted, were you back on the street, or like were you back in Australia? Like what happened after that?
I'd say I did get
went to La Soiree or La Clique.
Frodo. Yeah, So what did happen? It was about 2005 that show finished. I'd say I was in Melbourne, just back doing 4 or 5 shows a week, just living the good life.
Yeah.
Because they'd opened Federation Square by that time, and that was a really good pitch. In fact, Lucky Rich was part of he used to hang out with the architects that designed Federation Square.
Really?
And he said to him, why don't you put some tiered steps in there with sort of like an amphitheatre style thing at the bottom? So he was in their ears and they just listened. And it's when it works really well, when there's nothing else on there and there's good clear sight lines for a couple of 100 metres. It's one of the best pitches ever, I reckon.
Yeah, it's one of the Australian pitches that I've never tried actually, because every time to Melbourne was I've done St Kilda, I've done South Bank, and Burke Street, but yeah, I never had the chance or the opportunity to do Fed Square.
Yeah, well, you know what it's like now, Alf. Everything's changing. It's like it's a public space managed by a private corporation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it's like. They're all the same now. So, hey?
Same as Boston.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, I'm not saying there's audition processes, but it's not all that easy to just rock up and do a show. Mm-hmm. There's always boxes to tick and people to keep happy and
bureaucracy, man.
Yeah. Hey?
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, heaps of it.
Yeah.
Heaps of
it. Yeah, no, it's the same here, man. There's an audition, there's a background check. Make sure you're not a criminal.
Yeah.
You got to have the insurance, and then you got to sign that form that says, if you get injured, they're not responsible.
What about working with children check? Do you have to have that?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A Corey and a sorry. I don't know. That's a criminal records check and a sexual predator background check, or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's pretty full on, but it's rare that you find a city where you don't have to do that now for street.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I can only think of a handful.
Yeah. I've been out to little country towns, to do their festivals, and it's sort of like going back to the 90s. Yeah. There's people out there that haven't seen everything. Yeah. So they still really love it. And last year, I got flown to this place way up in Queensland. I had to do my old street show that I've been doing for 25 years or something. And someone walked through on their phone, and I just grabbed her phone and talked to the person on the other end.
As you did.
Told the person on the other end, oh, she's watching a really good show. She's just going to be sitting down here on the right-hand side and all that. And just and to prove I'm not psycho, the whole crowd's going to say goodbye. And the whole crowd said goodbye. And I just sort of forgot about it and kept doing my thing. Yeah. And the next day, I get a phone call from the organizer. This was in 2019. I get a phone call the next day, and he goes, Shep, what are you doing Australia Day 2020? And I go, I don't know, man. It's a year away. And he goes, well, you're booked. That thing you did with the phone, that's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was going, it's just a generic old thing. But I didn't say that. I didn't say that to him. But I was going, yes, I've found people that haven't seen everything.
Yeah.
We've got to get out into the country more often.
So you started a new show after that, right? The Dirty Brothers, right?
Yes. Yeah, that. that got me to go to the National Theatre of London. That actually got some respect, that show.
Yeah.
It was another thing that my parents could come and see.
And tell me about that show. It was much different to the Happy Sideshow.
Oh, yeah. It was, well, part of the thing was, Al, I just had been talking on stage, hosting for so long. I just wanted to test myself and be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to my best mate, Paddy, who was in the original thing that I was in the 80s, the juggling thing that I was in the 80s, I said to him, I want to make a sideshow type show that's silent and theatrical.
Mm.
And he goes, okay, leave it with me. And I went away to Europe and did a summit tour, came back, and Paddy had all these ideas of how to put sideshow stunts into beautiful, visual, poetic spaces.
Yeah.
And that became the backbone of the Dark Party.
Dark Party.
Yeah, and that show, because it was silent, it sort of transcended language, and it was quite emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And in Spain and Portugal, they've got a really long tradition of sad clown, and they just embraced that show. We had a Spanish producer. We went there, I don't know how many years in a row, and we do big festivals, and there'd be like, we'd go on at 1 o'clock at night, and there'd be 1,000 people waiting for us and stuff. And it was just sideshow rock and roll. It was really special. And
in Spain, the shows don't start till like 10 o'clock. You know,
that's right.
There's always a late night vibe in Spain.
Yeah. And it's one of, I don't have many regrets, but one of them is that the producer of that show, after we'd done, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons there in a row, the last summer, he just took the money. He didn't pay us. He just took the money and left and declared bankruptcy. And we weren't the only company he ripped off. He ripped off, I don't know, quite a few other companies. Right. And he just took the money. And he was a brave, interesting producer who was prepared to take risks. That's why he took the show.
Mm-hmm.
But we never found another producer for that show.
Right.
So after that, it would just get, 1 or 2 gigs a year here and there from people who'd heard about it and stuff, but it had no one actively pushing it anymore.
Yeah.
And now we do probably 1 gig a year in Japan called Sadistic Circus. And it's awesome. It's like it's a boxing ring, so a square set in a boxing arena.
Yeah.
So there's, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people or more on all sides of you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's big screens. So even the people right at the back react like they're in the front row.
Yeah.
And you get flown in Japan, you get put up there, you get a couple of days to practice it in the new space. And then there's, they're so precise, the Japanese. They've got, quite a few people filming it, and the sound cues are all absolutely perfect. And Sadistic Circus is, it's like an upmarket kink fest, so no photos are allowed to be taken in the venue by punters, all the bondage people come there all dressed up in their gear and everything. And it's a great gig.
And in your experience in like doing, the Happy Sideshow and the Dark Party and just other sideshow stuff, have you ever come across or ever had yourself like any like crazy injuries from doing that stuff?
In Covent Garden one day, I was lying on the nails, and I had some volunteer out. She didn't speak all that great English, and the sun was shining quite a lot. I'm lying on the nails, and I've talked her through the whole process, and it goes 3, 2, 1, drop. And on the word 1, I would always just tense my abs to help absorb the impact and the plate smash. And so I've got the whole crowd ready, and we all go 3. But I had my eyes closed because it was too sunny.
Right.
And on the word 3, she dropped the ball.
Right.
And I'm not tense at all.
Yeah.
So it's like being punched in the guts by a, I don't know, 12-pound bowling ball. Bang! I just wasn't ready for it. And smash. And it hurt, man. I rolled off the nails like I was actually punched in the guts hardcore.
Yeah.
The people are all laughing their heads off.
I
don't have any more plates. I just have to stand up and put my hat out, and people are just laughing and laughing. And I was going, oh man, if I could fake that, that's actually really funny, you know. I'll tell you one though, when I was doing the nails, you know, the Krusty Demon show?
Yeah, I heard about that, yeah.
You know those motorbike guys? They used to do motorbikes and backflips and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it morphed into the Nitro Circus, or that's the competition of it anyway. But I was doing the Krusty Demon show in a big sort of stadium thing, and they need you to fill just a few minutes while they change the length of the jumps. They move the kicker ramps they jump off. And one of the things was I'd lie on a bed of nails with a big board on top of me. A guy would ride up and do a massive burnout and get heaps of smoke going, and then just sort of roll off again, and that's that. And the big thing was you have to roll off. Do not let the clutch out and fly off forwards, because you've got to remember there's a guy under here on a bed of nails holding that board down.
Yeah.
And it worked every time until Seth Enslow, who's the big star of the Krusty Demons, the guy who owns it all and he started it all, and he came along, and it's like maybe the beginning or the end of the tour. It's the big one, and we're doing that stunt, and it's working, and he's on a big Harley, and suddenly he drops the clutch, the gear takes, and he shoots off that way, and I'm holding on the board, and the board just drags me down the nails. It dragged me down the nails so that I actually had, I don't know, maybe 100 cuts between 2 and 4 to 5 inches long in my back, like that. And, oh man! And afterwards, the people that booked me were so angry with him that they took me to him to sort of get him to apologise. But he's like a big name and a coke fiend. And they go, this is Shep. He's the guy under the thing that you did when you did, show him your back, Shep. And I showed him my back. And these guys, they break their legs and their arms and they break this shit all the time. And they're going, oh, we were just hoping you could say sorry. And the person that booked me, his name was Ben. Seth Enslow just put his hand out like that, bang, and got him around the neck, and just went, I don't say no to anybody. Whose show is this? It's my fucking show. Just sort of dropped him, and that was that. We had to leave, and I don't think I got that gig again.
Yeah, right.
Ask me about injuries. I was on me and Shane were doing the 110th anniversary of Harley Davidson, and I had to lie on a bed of nails, and Shane had to ride a Harley over the top of me. And the ramps we had were quite steep, and Shane goes, Shep, there's not enough clearance on the bike. We usually do it on a dirt bike. Dirt bike will make that easy, but the Harley's so long it won't make it across. Yeah. And I'm going, Shane, we're in the show, man. We just have to do it. Yeah. And he's going, we can't do it, Shep. And I'm going, no, just try, man. Just go fast and try. And so he did. He went fast and he tried, and he made it up, and then the bike came down, bang, on top of it.
Oh, shit.
But the bike had been running for a while, and the exhaust,
hot.
They were really hot.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's exhaust pipes on me like that, and the nails are under me, and it's like, and I'm trying to get out, sucking my gut in as hard as I can, trying to scrape out of this scenario. And then Shane's there just sort of dragging me out from underneath it, and the bike's collapsed between the ramps. And we get out, and we just sort of both take this half-assed bow and leave. And we just leave the bike just sort of on the floor and these ramps. And then we're just in the room, and I've got these 2 big burns across my gut. And it's like, we just got to get out of here. That was so embarrassing and so fucked. We cannot stay here any longer. And we just packed our shit and left.
Wow, didn't talk to anyone. Sideshow's no joke, huh?
No, it's no joke. It's no joke.
Yeah.
Street's no joke either. Yeah. I was in Burke Street, New Year's Eve, finishing a really big New Year's Eve show, and I've got my both hands on my thing like that. It's an amphitheatre style pitch, so it's money that I would like to spend on New Year's Eve. Mm-hmm. And suddenly there's a guy's hand on me. He's got me really tight round there, and he goes, "Give me all your fucking money." And I look down, and there's a knife at my guts. He's got one hand on there, and the other hand a knife on my guts. And my first thought was, that knife's so big it can go through me. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. And then I just sort of pulled this way, and he still had me, and he had me quite tight. And then before I knew really what happened, 4 guys out of the audience jumped on him.
Yeah.
They jumped, and suddenly, like, you're protected by your crowd. And suddenly they had him on the ground. And because it was New Year's Eve, about 2 seconds later, 2 policemen walked around the corner. Mm-hmm. And other people went, "Oh, this guy's just threatened a guy with a knife," and all that. And then suddenly, like, there's more police, there's a paddy wagon, and
your show's gone to shit all of a sudden.
Yeah, but luckily I was collecting the cash at that point. But all I wanted to do was leave, but I couldn't leave. And they said, "You have to come to the station and make a statement." Yeah. And I go, "It's New Year's Eve. The guy's just desperate. Let's give him a break. Let's not press any charges."
Yeah.
And they went, "The guy's dangerous. If you're not pressing the charges, we will. You have to come to the station." So I had to go and sit in the station for hours to give my statement for this poor, like, he was just desperate, junkies are desperate, and the guy was having a hard time, and he's just, so the street's hardcore too, Al, like.
It is, mate. Yeah, I have actually had many an encounter on the street that has led me to be studied in jiu-jitsu for over 8 years now. I've been training jiu-jitsu just for that reason, just because I've been, like, confronted and accosted and been in fights,
Yeah.
And
it's scary, isn't it?
It's mostly Australia. Like, I've had 1 or 2 in Boston, 1 or 2 in Europe, but it's mostly been Australia where people have tried to hurt me or fight me at my show.
Is it mostly other performers?
No, definitely not. Definitely not performers. No, just random assholes,
Yeah, there's too many people with something to prove in Australia.
Yeah, big time.
The macho thing is stupid.
And you've got the crowd. They just want to be the big man in front of the crowd,
Yeah. Can I tell you a story about Lucky in in Amsterdam?
No, tell me.
He had a great show going on, and these guys pushed through the edge, and they sort of swaggered through the show, and Lucky just sort of dropped in behind them and sort of mimicked their walking style.
Yeah.
And one of them turned around and went. He sort of shaped up to him, like, "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" Shaped up to him like this. And Lucky goes, "Oh, yes. Do you want to fight me? I love fighting. I'm actually a fighter, man. I love it. I am so into fighting you. Can you just stand over there? I'll finish this show, and then it's on, man." Yeah. And the guy goes, "Well, okay then." And so him him and his mates just stayed and watched the show. And at the end, they didn't want to fight him anymore.
Yeah, I bet.
Just won him over with charm,
Yeah,
But just that thing of meeting it face on, going, yeah, you want to do this? I would love to do it. Just let me finish the show first.
Yeah.
I was astounded.
Yeah. I haven't. The only time I've had to use my skill was someone tried to take money out of my bucket once at Faneuil Hall down in Boston, and yeah, it was a matter of grabbing him in one of my jiu-jitsu positions and threatening him to put him to sleep. And I was like, you gotta let go of the money or you're gonna go to sleep. And he's like, what? And I tightened up a bit, and he goes, oh, okay. And he let go of the money.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. I used to just get my knuckle sort of like that, the middle knuckle just pushed out a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'd be standing on the step ladder, so a little bit higher than them all. And I did it a couple of times, actually, mainly to kids, just on the top of the head, just crack. And they just go, ow, and they drop it straight away.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's great. And you started a sideshow festival, is that right?
I did, yeah. I mean, I loved doing that. It was so great. I had people from all over the world come to Ballarat. I put it in Ballarat because I wanted sideshow to be cold. Circus, I thought, that has hot weather festivals.
Mm-hmm.
But let's do a sideshow festival and let's make it like, the women wear fur and we all drink gin and whiskey and it's indoors.
Mm-hmm.
People indoors. And it went so well. The first year I got sponsorship from Hendrick's Gin. Awesome. And it was really awesome. I had Hover from Norway, the guy who basically, he was called the headmaster. He inspired Frodo a lot when Frodo was beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first year I had Lizard Man as well, from Austin. And the next time round I had Princess Tweedleneedle from Germany. So a whole lot of sideshow stars. The second time round I had the Monsters of Schlock, those guys?
Yeah, for real.
Out of Canada. Mm-hmm. So it really was. I thought to myself, if you just call it the World Sideshow Festival, it will grow into the name.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really working. But the funding, I don't have the amount of capital I need to be able to keep it going. Wow. And after the second one, we lost quite a bit of money. And Simi, my wife, she said to me, that was a pretty expensive party.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really great party with awesome people from all over the world. But I can't do it with my own money anymore. If I ever do it again, it's got to be with other people's money.
Got to get funding, yeah. Sponsorship.
So I need some good funding or some good sponsorship, yeah.
Yeah. And when did you decide? Well, I mean, you haven't been street performing for a while, right? And you've moved away from the city.
Isn't it amazing? I actually do bubble shows.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about Dr. Hubble.
Isn't that amazing? Like, what a full circle that is. From swinging a car battery off my nipples to making bubbles for children is a career path that I could have never predicted in my wildest dreams. Yeah. And so I think having a kid just made me go, this sideshow lifestyle, it's pretty hedonistic and it's probably not sustainable in the long term.
Mm-hmm.
So just grow up a little bit. So the bubble show really is my idea of a day job. I just go and make bubbles in the daytime and get home in the afternoon and be a good dad.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, that's basically the motivation for it, is to just be a good dad. Yeah. It was interesting learning.
You don't still get out there and do your old show anymore?
Yeah, a couple of times a year. I cherry pick, I don't ever want to do it if it's hard. I just cherry pick the good ones. So if there's good money and a nice place to stay, I'll go and do it.
Yeah.
But I only get asked probably twice a year. Last year I did it twice. The year before twice.
Yeah.
It's great though, Al, because it's all still 100% in there.
Yeah, of course.
You know, when you do something 300 times a year for bloody 10, 20 years, or however long it is, it just stays in your bones and you just know it.
Yeah,
So
cool.
I just walk out there with the suitcase, start cracking a whip, and then suddenly it's all just coming back and people are laughing and yeah, so it's all still there and I love it. I just love it. But I can't ever see myself doing unsolicited busking shows.
No.
Maybe I could, like in the perfect environment.
Right.
So I was at Moomba at the weekend. It's a big Melbourne, a couple of weeks ago, big Melbourne festival.
Yeah.
And I did my bubble show there, got paid a nice wedge to do the bubbles. And then afterwards, I walked around and saw Ruben ...
Mm-hmm.
and Eric the Red. They were working a pitch just south of South Bank under a tree, south of Fed Square under a tree, and it catches the Moomba crowd. And for one weekend a year, it's a brilliant pitch.
Yeah.
And I was going, oh, geez, wish I had brought my street gear. I would have a crack at this, you know.
Right.
And then, just as I was thinking it, Fed Square management came down with the bloody headset and the walkie-talkie and the clipboard and stuff, going, sorry, fellas, I'm really sorry to do this, but the City of Melbourne said you're causing an obstruction over there, and no amount of talking was going to stop them from stopping the shows. And so the shows got stopped, and at that point I went, geez, I'm glad I'm not relying on this anymore.
Yeah, there's so much regulation out there now.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's I've taken a step back, you know, in the last couple of years. You know, I still do maybe you know, 1 or 0 weekends a month of street shows.
One or zero.
1 or 0, yeah. It's either I'm completely booked or I've got 1 weekend free to do street shows, and which is nice for me. I love Boston and I love the pitch in Boston, and so to be honest, it's more my home pitch now than Sydney ever was, because I've worked it for longer, you know.
Yeah. But do you feel a little obligation to keep working it so that it stays open?
I don't think so, because it's not just me. There's a good crew down there.
I see.
Yeah. And it's a, you know, as you know, it's a bit of a famous pitch, and people still want to come through and do shows here, and so it's the problem with Boston is it's a short season. You know, it's like there's like 6 good months, and then rest of the time it's too cold, bar a freakish weekend of warm weather.
Yeah, you've got to travel somewhere.
Yeah. So it does sustain a good roster of acts here, but it's all people that have moved here because of it. Like I moved here because of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And yeah, if we were all just doing street shows, like it wouldn't sustain us. Like we all do other things as well. You know?
Yeah. So you're saying you do 3 out of 4 weekends doing gigs?
Yeah. Pretty much.
That's great, Al. That's really good. Yeah. What sort of gigs?
I work a lot in tattoo conventions now.
Oh, do you? Right.
Yeah. It was just kind of a stroke of luck, actually. Someone saw me at Faneuil Hall street performing and was like, oh, I want to get this guy to come to our convention. And that year I go, but then they asked me again the next year, and I was okay, yeah, I can go. And I went and did a couple of shows over the weekend. Someone who ran a convention in another place saw me and was like, dude, that was amazing. Can you come to my convention? And then at that convention, I met someone who ran like 10 conventions. And he would come to his thing. And that's just kind of blew up from there, you know. And me coming in as a street performer, doing what I do is just a kind of a breath of fresh air sometimes, you know.
Yeah, well, see, you can add theatricality and gags to it. And that makes a difference, because you get a lot of people going, oh, I can bang a nail up my nose. But it's not a show.
Right.
You know? Yeah. The show is much more than the stunt.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been working this out recently because having done so many different things through my career, I reckon the tricks aren't really overly important at all. It's your relationship with the audience that's the most important thing.
It's you.
It's you. Yeah. And how you make the people feel. Yeah.
That's,
So for me,
like one of the first lessons, I think JP was like, it doesn't matter what you do, it's you.
The way, that's right. Yeah. Well, you said it out. You said it years ago. I was trying to wind you up a little bit because you'd just done this big show, and I went, Al, no matter what happens, you've got to remember you're just a monkey on a stick. And you said to me, no, Shep, I'm a smile on a stick.
It's true, mate.
Yeah.
You gotta smile. That's the number one rule in street theater. You can get away with anything if you smile.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Pepe had the cheekiest grin of all. He could get away with anything with that grin of his. Yeah, so beautifully cheeky.
I'm happy that I got to see Pepe, in the 90s and the 2000s in Edinburgh, and that just before it all went to shit,
Yeah, me too.
Have you been in touch with him at all?
No. No, someone is looking to do an interview with him, and someone else wrote, just go to Covent Garden, he'll be around the back of the pitch.
Yeah.
But he ain't what he used to be.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It's drugs and alcohol are definitely a tough thing for a lot of performers.
Well, it's a trap in our game when you don't really have a boss, and you don't have to go to work if you don't want. And you can have a joint at 10 a.m. or a beer at 10 a.m. You can do whatever you want.
You can afford to.
Yeah, you can afford to, and no one's regulating. No one's saying don't. So it's a real trap, and I feel really sorry for Pep because I think my family, like my daughter and my wife, really sort of saved me from that sort of thing.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah,
man. I saw it early. I saw it like with the pitch in Sydney. I saw it in Edinburgh. I was getting shows because people were too fucked up to be able to do their spots.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna drink anymore. And actually, I quit smoking weed in Edinburgh that year, that '98.
Yeah. Wow. Great.
Why? Because I lost my kit.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I didn't have anywhere to stay, so JP said, "Don't worry about it. Just come to Edinburgh. You can stay like in my closet or in my van or whatever." And so I went to Edinburgh and I was staying in JP's van. And one night we were at JP's apartment and we were just like, smoking bongs and whatever. And I got so high that I went back to the van with my props, and I only had the key to the front door. So I had to put my props at the back door, climb in the front door, climb through, open the back door, pull my props in, right? So that night, I climbed in the front door, got on the bed, fell asleep. And the next day, my props were gone. And I was like,
oh
my. That day, I was like, I'm never, ever smoking weed ever again.
Yeah,
I'm never
right.
doing anything again, Because it's
you
too
get the
important.
props back?
No,
Yeah.
I never got them back.
Didn't. Right.
No. Sparky Mark rented me his machetes.
Of course he did.
He rented me his machetes, so I was able to do shows with a set of machetes until I went to the juggling shop and bought some torches, and I had a weed whacker in my show, and I went and bought a weed whacker, but I finally, I got it all back after a couple of months, but no, I didn't get that actual kit back.
Yeah, wow. Well, it was very kind of Mark to rent you some props, wasn't it?
Kind of Mark to rent me his machete.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. So for Shep now, it's you're living around Byron Bay. You learn to surf. You've got a bubble show, and nothing's going on right now. So that's your plan right now, is just to learn to surf and chill until the shows start happening again?
Yeah, well, I want to just, like I said, I just want to be like a good dad, not let any of the stress of this virus thing go through to my kid.
Mm-hmm.
Be a good dad. It's just here I am in paradise. Just got to pass the time away until the shows kick in again. But there's no greater place to be. Like, it's just literally paradise.
Do you have any thoughts on if this will change the way shows are in the future?
Wow, I haven't thought about that yet. I reckon people will be craving some sort of normalcy after this. Mm-hmm. They'll be dying to get back out and see things again. Because I don't know about where you are, but all the pubs and clubs here are closed. Yeah. All the cinemas are closed. Everything's closed.
Yeah.
So, I reckon small businesses might have trouble getting back on their feet, but I reckon shows and entertainment will just come back with a bigger vengeance. It'll be back a bit hardcore straight away.
I think busking will even be maybe one of the first things.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting people to go to a venue and pay a ticket to sit with a bunch of people inside might still not be on their radar for a while. But just being outside and witnessing a show.
Yep. Yeah, that can work. Yeah, and you, in a little Facebook thread a little while ago, I was going, I don't know what to do. And you went, the street's just where you left it, Shep. And that made me think, yeah, you're right, it is. And there's a beautiful park here, and I actually wouldn't mind getting out into that park at some point, just playing with people.
You'd be surprised at how quickly, you say you only do your street show a couple times a year, but like it's fun, man. Like I do all these gigs and shows and conventions and whatever, but as soon as I do a street show, I'm like,
it's fun, yeah. Yeah, good thinking. Yeah, I need to be reminded of that actually, because those years were just the greatest. So you're right.
You come to you fear that you won't be as good as you were before.
Yes. Yeah. There's always that, isn't there?
Saw you before, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they don't know. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think it's been proven that you can be quite shit and they'll still like you.
Yeah, that's been cool.
Yeah.
Been awesome, Shep.
Yeah, hasn't it? It's been great. Yeah, thanks for the chat. It's been really nice. I want to say thanks to all the people involved in this project, because it feels like we're spread out and we're quite disparate around the whole world, except you and the team behind this are bringing us all together. And you don't know how many people listen to these, Al, but everybody's listening to them. And it is just keeping our community together. And I want to say a special thanks to everyone involved.
No worries, mate. It's like being at the back of the pitch.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah.
Thanks to Shep for being part of the project and his kind words at the end. I really do hope this podcast can bring us together in some way during these strange times. If you're a regular listener, thanks. You know this podcast is a labor of love, but sponsorship helps keep it going and allows us to release episodes more frequently. So if you'd like to become a sponsor of the podcast or know someone who would, contact me at magic@buskerhalloffame.com. You can also visit the Busker Hall of Fame website and throw a little love into our online hat by clicking on the donate button. Or become a sustaining supporter of the project at patreon.com/Busker Stories. Thanks in advance for supporting the project and helping keep busking history alive. Music for this podcast came from 357 Lover. Links to both songs are available in the notes section of this episode on the Busker Hall of Fame website. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, where you can see a video version of this interview. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend about it and leave us a 5-star review. It'll help get the podcast noticed, and we'd really appreciate it. If you'd like someone to be interviewed or feel a certain voice has not been heard, please reach out to me and let me know. We're doing our best to capture interviews and stories with as many performers as we possibly can. It's up to you to help fill in the gaps. So on behalf of myself, Al Millar, who captured the interview, and the rest of the team of the Busker Hall of Fame, remember, if you can't laugh at yourself, find someone else and laugh at them. I'm Magic Brian. Thanks for listening.